Hi! In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a bra pattern for this comfy bra. You need a sports bra or a tight-fitting tank top to base the pattern on. You also need a serger or a sewing machine with zigzag stitch. So to begin, you need a bra or a top, some paper and a pencil, and some basic sewing supplies. As for fabric, you can use any type of stretch fabric. I'm using cotton jersey with some elastane in it. It's comfortable and more breathable than synthetic fibers. For the underbust, you need some white elastic. I used elastic that's about 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches wide. I'm also using framilon. It's 4 millimeters or about 1/5 of an inch wide elastic tape. Using it is optional, but it helps the seams to keep their shape so they don't stretch and warp over time, which can be a problem when you're sewing with cotton jersey. We'll start by drafting the pattern. If you're using a tank top, put it on and mark where you want the underbust seam to sit. My bra has an elastic band already, so I'm using that as guide. The pattern is a very simple princess seam, and I'm mostly eyeballing stuff as I go. Fold your bra in half to draw the front. I'm placing the elastic band below the edge of the paper so it's not included in the pattern. Trace around the bra. Measure around the cup of the bra. Mine was about 3 centimeters or 1 inch bigger around the bust, but the difference should be more if your fabric has less stretch. Add the difference to the side seam of the front piece all the way from the top to the bottom. I estimated where the highest point of the bust should be, and I drew an X there. From this point, I freehanded a curve from the bottom to the armhole. Next, we'll remove the 3 centimeters off the bottom and the armhole by drawing a line that tapers into the X, forming 2 darts that meet at the center. And so, we have created a princess seam. Fold the bra so the back side is visible and trace around it. The part that goes lower is the center back, and the taller side is the seam below the armpit. I measured to see that the side seams at the front and the back were the same length. Cut the pattern pieces out, then place them on top of another piece of paper and add seam allowances around all sides except for the center front that will be cut on fold. I only added about 1.5 centimeters or half an inch, and as you will see, I should have added more. It's easier to take in the seams if the bra ends up too big, but adding material is more difficult. That being said, when making stuff that's supposed to fit you snugly, you always want to make a mock-up. I made a mock-up of this green fabric. The straps were way too short, and overall it was too small for me. So I ended up adjusting the pattern quite a bit. Here you can see the difference between what I just drafted and the finished pattern. I'm folding the fabric so there's 4 layers. The front piece is cut out 2 times on fold, and you need to cut 4 side pieces and 4 back pieces mirrored. Place your pattern pieces so the greatest stretch goes sideways. I also cut out a long rectangle for the casing of my underbust elastic. I used the pattern pieces to determine how long it should be. Just put the pattern pieces side by side and cut a rectangle that's twice as long and also twice as wide as your elastic plus seam allowance. Pin and sew the princess seams right sides together. Start pinning from the center out and make sure the edges meet at the end. Curved seams are always a bit tricky to pin and sew. Sew all of the 4 seams. I added framilon to all my seams and I ironed them as I went. Be careful when ironing framilon though, because if it comes in direct contact with your iron, it can melt. Use an ironing cloth or iron from the right side of the fabric. Next, attach the front and back pieces by the shoulder seams only. The back pieces are upside down with the center backs facing, and I just flip them right sides together on top of the front pieces. Here you can see the way I use framilon in the seams. It's just added on top of the seam you're about to serge or sew, and you need to make sure it's caught under the line of stitches from the needles. If you're sewing with a zigzag stitch, just make sure you catch the framilon under the needle as you go. For shorter seams, I cut the framilon ready so it's a bit longer than the seam I'm sewing, but for longer seams, I just feed it into the seam as I go and only cut it when I get to the end. Here's a close-up of what the framilon looks like in the seam. Next, place the 2 pieces right sides together. Match the seams and pin along the edges of the neckline and the armholes, but not the sides or the back. Sew along the neckline and the armhole curves. Turn the pieces right sides out by pulling the back pieces through the shoulder straps. Iron the seams so they sit nice and flat. Next, flip the back pieces on top of the front pieces and match the side seams. What you want to do is grab the 2 layers of fabric in the middle that are right sides together, match the underarm seam, and flip the top layer and the bottom layer so that they also meet right sides together. So then you have this straight edge with the underarm seam in the middle. Pin both side seams like this and sew. Then you have this weird looking contraption, but once you flip the wrong sides together, you have something that's starting to look like a bra. And as you can see, all the serged seams are hidden inside the two layers, which makes for a more comfortable bra as there are no seams pressing into your skin. So now you do the exact same thing with the remaining back seam as you did with the side seams. Put the layers so the right sides are meeting up and the seam at the center back neckline is matched. Almost done. Now all we need to do is add the casing for the underbust elastic. I cut mine a bit too long and I need to trim it shorter. I sewed the two ends right sides together with a sewing machine and a straight stitch, leaving a small gap just below the halfway point where the casing will be folded. Here's a close-up of what that seam looks like. The elastic will be inserted through the gap. Here I have folded the casing in half with wrong sides together and ironed it. The side with the gap is facing outward. You want to put this seam at the center back or at the side seam. I'm matching mine with the center back seam. You want to place the casing on top of the right side of the bra with the gap facing up, and you have all four raw edges pointing downward. Pin the casing around the bottom of the bra evenly and sew. Then all there's left to do is ironing the seam flat and inserting the elastic. I took a piece of elastic and cut it to a length that fits snugly around my underbust. I used a safety pin to push the elastic through. Once the elastic is all the way through, overlap the ends and sew a box or an end shape to secure them. Then simply push the elastic all the way in and you're done. If you want to close the gap in the casing, you can, but I usually leave mine open so I can adjust the length of the elastic if I ever need to. And that's it! The bra is finished! It's incredibly soft and comfortable, but depending on the thickness and stretch of your fabric, it can also be very supportive. I've made everyday bras and sports bras using this same pattern, the only difference has been the fabric. So, here's some incredibly awkward video footage of me prancing around in a bra. Also, my cat doesn't understand what I'm doing, so he's looking at me like I'm crazy. Anyway, I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. And if you decide to try this tutorial, please tag me on Instagram @somescoundrel. I'd love to see your creations.